Koha. I expect we won't get a lot of customers in the Philippines because you probably have cheaper local service providers. But we've been the top contributor to Koha's code for the longest time, and now the American company Bywater, which you've already heard about, has become the top contributor in the past month. And last, I'm a part of the Koha community, so this community that you're also a part of now, and it's a worldwide community that we're very happy to be part of. And what I was saying yesterday when we had the national presentation of the National Library of the Philippines is I was really happy to finally see this, because I also do commercial demonstrations for Koha to convince libraries to choose Koha, and that's an example I always take as a proof of how flexible Koha is and how solid it is. If a national library is using Koha, then it probably fits your needs. Okay, so what I wanted to do today is show you a number of contexts we've been using Koha in, and actually through the different talks you've had so far, you've already seen a few of those. So in order to make it less boring, I made a little game so that you can guess where Koha is. I tried to make it a bit ridiculous also. That's why you have an ode to Koha's flexibility subtitle. So that you would wake up in this early afternoon. Yeah. So this is the first slide, and that's Koha at the beach. Maybe you recognize this picture from a famous book for children. So that's the first context we've been using Koha in a lot. And it's a place where you go to relax. So where would that be? So that was for Koha in public libraries. We have hundreds of public libraries working with Koha and choosing it for its ease of use, the very quick cataloging you can achieve with it. Especially one example that I also always give when giving my pitch is we have libraries working with Koha in very small villages in remote parts of France. And those libraries are operated by retired people that volunteer their time to the library. Those are people that don't know how to use a mouse and a keyboard, and they still can catalog in Koha because Koha is flexible enough that you can tune your frameworks. So maybe some of you have been doing this. You know, you can choose the fields you want to display in your framework and what will be mandatory or not. So thanks to this, we can have Koha working for very small libraries with people who have no training at all, and that's something that you really want in public libraries. So this one library is one of our customers in the south of France, and I thought they had a really nice building, so I wanted you to see it. That's a picture of inside the library. Okay, next. Yeah, I think you just don't see anything on the pictures. There's just too much going on. The idea was Koha at a competition because it's some sort of a race happening. And the context here are, I have a first slide with dusty libraries, but it's actually academic libraries. Those two slides represent the breakthrough project for BibLib. When BibLib started, we worked with smaller libraries that were willing to take the chance to work with Koha. That was 10 years ago. And French libraries didn't trust free software for a serious library. So Paul started BibLib and had a few public libraries, some very specialized libraries that we'll talk about later. And then this huge university in the south of France decided to go for Koha. And those two pictures are two pictures of the same library. So that's the past and that's today. It's much nicer today. So this was the breakthrough for Koha in France, because that's when we really proved to the world how stable Koha can be, that university libraries and academic libraries can work with it. One of the reasons they finally could choose Koha is that Koha is very close to standards. You can have proper mark records in Koha and everything will be exactly as the standard dictates. And not every proprietary software does that. Another reason why we made it in universities is that French academic libraries have a network where they all catalog together and they all share their records. So this is a very specific way of cataloging large collections. So this library, I think, has 1 million items in one instance of Koha, and we have another bigger library in Thessaloniki in Greece that has 1.5 million items. And of course, you have the network of public libraries in Turkey, which you've heard about, which has even more items. So Koha can scale very well to extremely large collection and remain efficient. Next one was Koha in space. So we haven't put Koha on orbit yet, but we have it in a lot of research libraries. And this is a photo of the Space Observatory in Paris, well, outside of Paris, but the Paris Space Observatory, which uses Koha. And they are also one of our customers. And that's another proof of Koha's flexibility, because they have an extremely narrow field of research, extremely precise, and they are happy with Koha. This fits their needs. Next one was Koha in a complicated factory. This is a really complicated factory, and that's actually the factory that's the most complicated I could think of, which is the factory where they build laws. We have Koha in the government in France. So we work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The diplomatic archives of France are using Koha. The Ministry of Social Affairs is switching to Koha, and the Ministry of Defense is also thinking of switching to Koha. So someone yesterday was asking about security. Well, we have ministries going for Koha, and believe me, they are extremely demanding regarding security. So that's not a concern with Koha. Of course, another advantage of Koha in those situations is its ability to be customizable, because not only do they have very strong requirements when it comes to security, they also have all kinds of very bizarre requirements for their processes. That's how governments are pretty much everywhere in the world. And I don't know if France is especially bad for it, but we have to do quite a bit of customization for them. Then again, some of you might have tinkered with this as well, but because Koha is so close to the web standards, when you need to customize it, well, all you need to know is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are the 3 basic bricks you need to work on the web. And maybe not all of you know that, but you can inject pieces of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript into Koha's interface, and that allows you to customize it widely without touching the source code itself, which means you can have custom features without making a separate branch. This is something we'll talk a lot about during the Hackfest, maybe. Here, the National Library of the Philippines has done huge work to promote Koha all over the Philippines, but they had to build their own features. Same thing with Mengu in Turkey. They had to build their own features into Koha. And we used to do that also for a while. In order to satisfy some requirements of our customers, we would make a separate branch of Koha with different features. The issue with that is that when Koha moves on and when you get new versions, then rebasing, that's the technical word for this, putting all your work, your specific work, back on the new version has a large cost. So I urge you to think of all the possible ways of customizing Koha without changing the code. And if you have to change the code, then make it with the community so that it becomes a community feature. And you'll see that we are very, very adamant to work with you and have you contributing back to Koha. Next was Koha at the zoo. We don't have Koha to catalog animals yet, but as is an example here, we have Koha in lots of museums. So this is the Chaillot Palace in Paris, and the right part of the building here is a museum dedicated to architecture. If you ever go to Paris, it's worth seeing because it's quite big, and inside the palace they actually rebuilt entire buildings to show the architecture. So this museum has a specialized library on architecture, one of the most specialized libraries I've worked with, and they use Koha. Here as well, it's a very good proof of how flexible Koha is because they use the serials module a lot because they have subscriptions for every single serial that talks about architecture in the world, I think. I remember they had a serial called Southeast Asian Architecture. So they really have all of them, and they all have extremely weird periodicities and numbering patterns. And we worked quite a bit with them to set this right. And the craziest example I had was a serial that is published twice a month, once on the 10th of the month, and the second time on the 25th of the month. And the numbering pattern would be 1.10, 1.25. And we had to set this up in Koha so that Koha would compute the numbers for each serial that is published and the date it was supposed to be published on. And it worked. So serials are usually not what librarians like best in their ILS, but Koha ends up being pretty good about it and pretty flexible. Next example was Koha in clever plots. I don't know if you see what that is. And I don't even know if you're familiar with this. This is a horse, a wooden horse inside of a city. It's part of the Greek mythology, and maybe it's not a big thing here. Anyway, it's a war where one side of the war showed itself way more clever than the other one. And the example I wanted to show here was law firms. We have Koha in a number of law firms, and that's also a very specific context. First, because they have totally different documents from other libraries, and also because they have very different usage. One usage that they had is that the law firms we worked with are global. So they have offices in Paris, London, Hong Kong, wherever. So the system works 24/7 because everyone could be working on it at any time. And that's something that works very well with Koha because the server is always up. And there's no system that you need to access physically. It's all through the internet. That's actually one of the, everyone's been talking about the cloud and using those buzzwords for technology lately. And Koha is just doing it in a very simple way. It's using the standard technologies of the web, and it ends up that it is in the cloud if you want. Another feature that law firms were really looking forward is that, as you saw earlier, you can have self-checkout in Koha. And because the lawyers, in a law firm, you have the lawyers, I think above them you have associates, and librarians, of course, are lower. And the people I worked with were telling me we should not in any way interrupt the lawyer's work. It has to be the smoothest operation possible for them because they're really, really busy and really stressed out. So they have self-checkouts, and the lawyers just take the books from the shelves, put them back on the shelves, and manage everything by themselves. And that's working pretty good for them. Of course, we also had to customize quite a bit the cataloging, and also we said Koha is extremely close to the standards, which is good. But if you want to make it more specific, you can. We were talking about customizing frameworks, and so you can choose the fields you will be using, and usually you do this with fields that are part of the standard. But if you want to create a new field that is specific to your work, you can. So for libraries like this, we end up adding fields that are not part of the standard, but that fit their needs. And you can customize the frameworks so that they catalog things the way they need to. You can customize the search module so that they can search on those specific fields. And you customize then, of course, the display so that it works accordingly. Next one. Okay, I really didn't have a good image for this one. So this is Koha at the mall, and the only link with the next picture is that here you've got a table with people gathering around it. This was for another kind of very specialized libraries that we've been working with, and Paul actually mentioned it yesterday. The first ever library he worked with on Koha was a religious library. So we have a number of religious libraries working on Koha, and that's also a very good example of how specific you can get and how specialized you can be with Koha. This is the Saint-Vendry Abbey in Normandy, the west of France. If you visit France and you're interested, it's worth visiting. This building, this abbey, was founded in the 7th century. It's a very old community. And since lots of people are Catholics in the Philippines, maybe you will know the different orders of priests. This is a Benedict's Abbey. So I've been there to work with them, and I've spent some time with them for work. And it turns out that the life of a Benedict is work and prayer, and that's it, really. So those are some, ironically, because it's a small library with very few people working in it, and obviously no patrons coming, just the monks from the abbey. But they were some of the most precise and demanding customers I had, because their whole life is geared toward working and praying. So for them, we had really to use the flexibility of Koha and all these qualities it has to be super precise when you need to be very close to the standard. One example I had with them is that they do a lot of analytical cataloging. So they have serials and articles, and they want to detail everything, all the articles that they have in each serial, and they want to have links working from the title of the serial to each serial, individual serial that they have, to all the articles that they have in each serial, and they want to be able to display the summary of each serial and all this. And that is, if you want to do this in the proper cataloging way, what MARC offers, because MARC is a very old and limited format, then it's a lot of work. I don't know, well, this is actually the only library I know of that is doing it properly as per the standard, and Koha allows them to do it. One more example that is pretty specific, and those will be my two last examples, and they are the two most specific. So we'll be coming back to the zoo idea. First, this is Koha in critical situations. We have Koha working in NGOs. So this is a picture of a French NGO called Libraries Without Borders. And they have lots of different projects. One of them is to have ready-made libraries that they can ship to crisis situations like Syria, so that the people in the crisis situations will have access to culture. So they have like those boxes that they ship to those places where people, and then people will have iPads and books, and they can set this up in a refugee camp in a matter of hours. That's not what we did for them, because this part doesn't really require an ILS. This only requires books and the materials for the people who are going through this crisis. What we did for them is that they have another activity where they gather books and they send them to libraries around the world that need books for free. So they have this huge place in the suburbs of Paris, and that's what you see in the background, where they store books. And they need to have a catalog of everything that is in this place. And they need the partner libraries to be able to choose what they want and order it online. And we did this with Koha. So we have a Koha system working for them, where cataloging is actually entirely automatized. They only type the ISBN, and Koha does everything. They don't even type the ISBN. They feed Koha a list of ISBNs and barcodes, which are the books that they've been working on. And Koha, during the night, will automatically create the records in the catalog so that the libraries can search for it, and they don't have enough volunteers for cataloging. So they will have a very basic cataloging of all their books. And of course, they have a report of the books that we couldn't find through the ISBN. And then the libraries use Koha OPAC to choose the books that they would want and place, say, I want this one, this one, this one, and then send an order to this NGO. So we did this using Koha, but this time we had to customize it quite a bit and change the code itself, of course, because it was so specific. But this is also a situation where you can use Koha and you can make something interesting with this. And the last example, where I'll put Koha with fancy stripes, is actually the strangest we had, and it's Koha in the fashion industry. So no, we didn't catalog animals for a zoo, but we had a customer that catalogs pieces of clothes because it's a fashion company, and they have designers, and they have this huge archive of clothes, and the designers have access to the archive. They can search for it, they can borrow the clothes, work on them, and bring them back to the archive. So in order to achieve this, we had to customize Koha very extensively. Of course, they're not cataloging with MARC. They have very specific fields and classification. Also, it's a lot more simple. I mean, we made it a lot more simple than cataloging a book because they didn't have time and they are not librarians. But in the end, now they have a nice OPAC that displays all the pictures of all the pieces of clothes they have in the archive, and the designers can search for it and say, oh, I'm interested in this, that, and then go down to the archive, take the pieces of clothes like you would take a book in a proper library, work on it, and bring it back to the archive. This is not a picture of that archive we worked with. I don't have a picture of that archive. It was a lot more dense and packed on the shelves. This is just something I found online. So that's it. I just wanted to tell you how flexible Koha is, and how much it fits in your requirements. And it's not just something that you would choose because it's cheap. Of course, it's cheap and it makes sense to go for Koha for those reasons. But most of the time, it's actually also your best choice because technically it actually does what you want it to do. That's it. Thank you. And if you have some questions, I will answer them.
Okay. So that ends the first topic for the second half of this session. So, anyone who has a question? Actually, I would like to put a twist on our Q&A. So I will give this first to Sir for asking a question a while ago. So we'll be giving freebies, free items for those who will actively participate through asking a question or reacting. Either reacting positively, if you like, if you would like to affirm or commend or supplement some insights with what has been discussed in front, feel free. So, any questions, concerns? There you go, ma'am. Thank you for participating.
Hello. Hello. I'm Joanne Constantino from Taguig City University. Having said what you have discussed, sir, I just wanted to ask, what is the best server for our school? I'm working at the academic library. So is it okay if the server is in cloud, or is it the physical server? Which is much better?
Where did you say your institution is?
I'm working at an academic library.
Okay, so
So I'm asking about the server. We're
Yeah.
going to put up Koha, but I'm asking about.
You're working with a service provider and it is offering you both solutions and you don't know what to choose. Is that the situation?
I'm asking, what is the best type of server, the cloud server or the physical server itself?
Okay, a short answer would be if you have a really good IT team in your institution, then you can think of having a physical server. If you don't, then you should go with a cloud-based solution with a service provider. Because managing the server yourself is a lot of work. And if you don't have the know-how internally, after 1 or 2 years, you will stumble on very technical problems that you don't want to have to deal with.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Here is your free item from Manila Bulletin, one of our sponsors. So anyone else? A question over there?
Hey, Gaten. I really like the pictures that you put up there, and they were little micro, and there was a lot of detail in there. Where did you get those from? I don't want the prize. I'm just really interested.
Well, we'll discuss it tonight in Parliament.
Oh, but the promise is a promise, sir. Here's your notebooks. So, sir, your name? Okay. Sir Alvet from EBSCO. So, anyone else from the audience? A reaction or a supplement or a affirmation? Anyway, so thank you very much. Mr. Gaten Boyson, please. Yes. If you have any questions or concerns that may arise later on, you may email us at aslplibrarians@gmail.com. For the awarding of certificates, may I call on Ms. Maisel Marifosque, the conference chairperson, ASLP vice president, and representative in behalf of the ASLP board. And Mr. Manuel Tamayaw, representative from the KohaCon ILS Philippines volunteers. Please join me on stage. And allow me to read the citation first. The Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines, ASLP Incorporated, in cooperation with KohaCon Integrated Library System volunteers, presents this certificate of appreciation to Gaten Boyson, Biblib France, in grateful recognition for sharing his time and knowledge as a resource speaker for 2017 KohaCon International Conference, held on June 19 to 23, 2017 at Ayala Museum, Makati City, Metro Manila, Philippines. Given this 20th day of June 2017, signed Ms. Maisel Y. Marifosque, Conference Chair and Vice President of ASLP, and Randolph Di Mariano, ASLP President. And our token of appreciation. Sir, this is a wood representation of Calesa, one of the ancient transportation in the Philippines. Okay, thank you very much. Now, let's now proceed to the second session for the second half of this day. After knowing the Koha everywhere from the point of view of Mr. Gaten Boyson from France, let's now go local. From Batangas Provincial Library, a librarian who will be discussing the digitizing sangguniang panlalawigan ng Batangas ordinances and resolutions, increasing access to public documents through KohaCon. Ladies and gentlemen, the librarian from the Batangas Provincial Library in the Philippines, Mr. Alexander Lunar.
Thank you. To the organizers, Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines, thank you for accepting my proposal. To our foreign delegates and co-presenters, mabuhay, welcome to the Philippines. And to my fellow Filipino librarians and information specialists, good afternoon. So, I am here to share our experience of using Koha ILS as a public library. Ours is different because apart from the books that we usually circulate, ours are monographs. So monographs are 2 pages to 6 pages materials, which are, we call it resolutions and ordinances. So normally, we do not take it out from our library. So ours are, so we are one of the recipients of National Library Project. So we got our Koha and they installed it and then we are using that. So but first, let me introduce myself. I am Mr. Alexander Lunar. So I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. Now, librarian, practicing librarian, and I also teach library science in our province. Okay. So my title is Digitizing Sangguniang Panlalawigan ng Batangas, Ordinances and Resolutions. So increasing access to public documents and through Koha. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So for the outline of my topic, so Batangas Province at a glance, then Batangas Provincial Library, data integration, usability, and future plans. So this usability assessment is only a part of our paper of my study. So I will just show you related to Koha as our usability assessment. Batangas Province is located bounded on the north by the province of Cavite, northeast of province of Laguna, Quezon, and on the south by Verde Island Passage and the west by China Sea. So land area, we have 3,168.8 square kilometers. And presently, our capital is Batangas City. So if you can see the map, so we have different shorelines. So we have different resorts. And at the middle of the map, you can find that the famous Taal Lake. So that is where we are. We are facing the China Sea. Tama ba? Philippines. Okay. So Batangas Province, we have several natural attractions. So we have Taal Lake, volcano, the Verde Island Passage, the famous Verde Island Passage. So Tingloy shorelines, Anilao, diving spots, and different beaches. So cultural, we have cultural heritage town, Mabini Shrine, and for the products, we have coffee. We are famous on coffee and the Barong Tagalog embroideries. So I show this picture because they are the ones who are creating in our province, they are the ones who are creating our resolutions and ordinance. And in this part here, our library is inside this building, the Capitol. Batangas Provincial Library is not as big library as you have. We only have 35 seating capacity. So our services, circulation of local collections, histories, and we also have academic materials. Most of our clients are students around us. And then we have provincial ordinances and resolutions. So our board members, the one who are making our law, drafting, so they always get their copies in our library. So we have 6,496 plus books, serials, 30 titles, resolutions. So for now, only resolutions from 2012 to present. We don't have the rest for now. So average use, 60 clients daily. And aside from me, we are 3 librarians and 3 support staff who usually manage the Koha. So this is the materials we are working with. So we say ordinance, it is a law passed by the municipal government such as city, town, lineage, or borough. And resolution is a formal decision of an organization, motion which has obtained necessary majority vote in favor. So these are the papers who normally come into our library and they serve as research materials for college students, especially those who look into several historical development happen. So timeline, as per Koha integration, so on 2011, by virtue of provincial ordinance, our library was placed under direct supervision of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan. And the provincial secretary issued a copy of provincial ordinance then and now. So every week, we receive at least 30 copies of that. So by 2012, provincial librarian together with the library staff attended a training from National Library, and then eventually we availed Koha. And then they trained us how to do it, but they installed and they are the one who customized what we are using now. So 2013 started entry of bibliographic records of books in Koha, and 2014 bibliographic entry and scanning of provincial ordinances and resolution. Indexing documents was done to serve as a subject for easy retrieval. So while this process is still ongoing, so never ended, so it means our work is continuously done. As per Koha integration, our operating modules, we don't have all the modules yet. We only have cataloging, the authorities, the OPAC, and the reports. We do not practice our circulation modules because unlike an academic setting, in public library, our clients come and go. It is very hard for us to have a list of our clients. But we will try to have a final, especially for those who are working in provincial government. So this is our Koha interface. No logo of Koha. I think it should be there. So, ito po siya. Okay. So we have several tags used, but compared to academic libraries, we only have some because resolutions and ordinances, only several tags that you can use for them. This one, zero main entry or corporate entry. So, 010. We are using the old version, I think. 110 pa ba? Okay. So, yeah. So, I think this is 2.9. The old, one of the old. 2.2. one of the oldest version we have. We cannot yet. So tags for added entry for the personnel name. So we put the board members who created the resolutions or ordinance. Tag 260, publication and distribution. We put it here, the Sanggunian, or if it was done in a municipal level, say Cuenca, Batangas, because we receive them all too. Electronic location and access. So in this one, 856. So once we scan, we have the scanned copy of the material. In our case, for now we use Google Drive for now, presently. So the address that we put here is the address of from the Google Drive, wherein we save the scanned documents. First, this for now only. Physical description, so extent. So we put it the page, how many pages. And then, as for the accompanying material, every resolutions and ordinance, they have letters, cover letters. So we put it in accompanying material, underline 300, tag 300. So dates, so we have dates there. Subject entry, so in the index terms that we have. And this one, the last. Every time that we save the document. So to show you sample search result, this is one of the search result. And then this one. In here, in this part, you can see the link wherein you can find the soft copy. Then they can somehow print or download. So, our Koha is only searchable within the capital. Outside, people cannot view this. So as per usability assessment, so we have evaluated based on two dimensions, namely access and flexibility, ease of use, accuracy. So this was adopted from Tolentino and Andal, usability as VLE. So 28 users evaluated the module, descriptive method was employed, and through survey, 3 librarians and library staff evaluated the ease of maintaining Koha. So cataloging OPAC authorities. So this is the result. Okay. I'm sorry, medyo blurred. So it was revealed the searching is easy, enjoyable navigation between search result. So it is easy. It was also observed that interface was appropriate with a weighted mean of 3.79. And the color and text used are pleasing to the eyes. Unlike the one in the slides here. It shows that it's very often that respondents use the system easily. That is for usability based on ease of use. While for the accuracy, it was evaluated, the search results are accurate, index terms are precise, specific. It shows it is often responded got accurate result while using the system. So under use of maintaining, so it is from the librarian's point of view, it was revealed that the library staff experience is of using OPAC. They experience both ease of using cataloging module, ease of generating report, and it is easy to create authorities. So actually Koha is very friendly, user-friendly. It shows that it is often leveraged staff maintain the system easily. Based on the analysis and findings, it was concluded that Koha is found useful in terms of access and flexibility, ease of use, search result, and accuracy. Furthermore, Koha is easy to maintain, though positive feedback, usability of system may still be improved. So future plans, I think we need to carry out with our circulation module, and then conduct another assessment with wider scope. So we are planned to make it to have a web OPAC, but we will consult first with our IT, especially the web page of the provincial. The Batangas province is not yet properly done. So that's all. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's now time for our reaction. Are there any questions, reactions, or Affirmation?
It's different
ma'am.
from the
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Anna Jeffrey Zarpeñaranda from the University of Rizal System. So I am a campus librarian in the main campus, Tanay campus. So I want to commend you, sir, for digitizing your ordinances and resolution in Batangas province. And there are some questions I have for you. First, what are the file format you are using for the master copy for the digitized ordinances and the access copy for also for the ordinances?
so PDF file.
PDF file only po.
Uh,
So do you
PDF file.
maintain, sir, a master?
Yes,
Copy.
yes, we maintain it in our server. We have different server for that, but as per presently, we use our Google Drive first because we don't have. I need to consult first with our IT. For now, it is fully functional.
Thank you, sir. And for there are any restrictions as to the file size for the digitized collection?
Yes, they have
How
sometimes.
big it is for just a single ordinance po?
Actually, I'm practicing a zip to minimize the file size, and Google Drive is. We have, I think, a large amount for that, so we can save it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Here's your notebook. Your limited edition Manila Bulletin notebook. Okay, another question?
Sir, Mr. Abubakar Mama of the Mindanao State University. Actually, you have the same paper with one of our colleagues in Mindanao State University, and his study is about the organizing the archival materials of the university. Now, may I just ask if what standards did you use in describing the archival materials or the ordinance you used in your study?
Standards.
Standards.
So for now, we still benchmarking for that because our archive program is still on the process of implementation. Actually, this is a part of that program. Since we are barely started, I was hired just a year ago, and that's the time that they started this archive program. And we still benchmarking. We don't have actually that is standard for now, but we will go there. But for the meantime, we work on the easy access for those materials.
May I suggest now, if you are familiar with the DAC standard, the describing archival content standard, there is a equivalent mark tags of
Yes,
that
sir.
standard.
Thank you.
So,
I will
yeah,
talk to you later.
That standard.
I will
Thank
ask
you.
something. That's why I'm here. I would like to ask anyone that knows something about this thing.
Okay, so we have probably the last question. Anyway, ma'am?
I'm Rosalina Soriano from Iris. Do you still have the original of these ordinances and resolutions? And what are the backup of your digitized materials? How do you keep them? And where do you store all those?
Yeah, first,
Thank you.
we have lot of filed resolutions. I think several steel cabinets are placed still there. I think we have, for the 3 years, we have almost 5 steel cabinets with 3 lights, something like that. And for your next question, ma'am, yung server, the backup. We have backup. We have folders backup for the copy of for the soft copy. So once the back down, so we can work it out again.
Okay. Okay, na-answer. Okay, her question has been answered. Okay, another question here, sir.
Hi, my name is Halim. I'm from IMU Malaysia. I just been wondering, this digitization that you are saying just now is actually all, the result is all in PDF file. I've just been wondering, do you get, sometimes we, like our university, we do get soft copy in PDF file and we do want to edit it. Do you go through online to do it, or do you purchase or subscribe Acrobat Reader Pro in terms of editing it? Sometimes we have to edit it, put it into words, and then put it back into PDF file. Okay, because if we do it online, then we are actually revealing our data to the website's developer. You know what I'm saying, right? So, what is your approach at your end?
Okay, thank you, sir. So for now, we convert it online. We use the free online converter. So I believe your point that we are exposing our uh, document information online once we do that. But for me, for now, I think it's all right for us because that's the only way for us to do it, to convert our scan to PDF file. But maybe for the meantime, for if we going to find another way, maybe we will subscribe to that. For now, we use free converter online.
So we still have time, ma'am. We can still accommodate
Wala na
your
pong
question.
notebook.
Ay,
Ubus na po ang
sige
notebook
po.
ng Manila
For
Bulletin.
suggestion po later. Pay question lang po last sa likod.
Good afternoon. So I'm Leia de los Reyes from Erie in Los Baños. So that's a very good initiative that you have there, that you digitize all those kind of materials from your provincial library. Anyway, from our side in Erie, we also digitize our materials and place them in Google Drive. Google Drive is a good repository. So when you are working in academic, you always have an option to explore this with Google. Google can give you an unlimited space for your library. I mean, you can just always contact Google. That's what we did. So we have an unlimited space for our Google Drive. So we upload all of our digital documents there, and that is our repository. Also, a good thing about Google Drive is When you upload a PDF, it automatically converts to an OCR ready document. So when you search in Google, the texts are already searchable. So you don't have to convert them
Yes.
to an OCR application or something. So you just upload them in Google. Google automatically converts them to as an OCR ready document. So
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's correct po.
Sige po, ma'am. We have last na lang po for the...
Sure po.
Actually, suggestion na lang naman daw si
Yes
ma'am.
po.
Good afternoon. Hindi na ako manghingi ng sir, freebies. My other suggestion is to consult Sir Eugene Espinosa for Greenstone and this space for your storage. Make an institutional repository for your ordinances and other files, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Na-scan mo.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so I guess that's it. That concludes our Q&A. However, I see some of you are still wondering for some questions, no? So may I invite you to just email them at aslplibrarians@gmail.com, and we will do our best to reply at once. Okay, so that's it. And we'll now award the Certificate of Appreciation for Mr. Lunar. May I invite the conference chair, the ASLP Vice President, and also the representative from the ASLP, Ms. Maizel Y. Marifosque, to join us in front for the awarding of the certificate. And from the side of the Koha ILS Philippines volunteer, Mr. Manuel Tamayaw, in front, please. The citation reads, the Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines, ASLP Incorporated, in cooperation with Koha Integrated Library System, ILS volunteers, presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Alexander Lunar, Batangas Provincial Library in Philippines, in grateful recognition for sharing his time and knowledge as a resource speaker for the 2017 Koha International Conference, held on June 19 to 23, 2017 at Ayala Museum, Makati City, Metro Manila, Philippines. Given this 20th day of June 2017, signed Ms. Maizel Y. Marifosque, Conference Chair and Vice President, and Mr. Randolph D. Mariano, President. And also accept our token of appreciation, your limited edition Kalesa. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, so that's a very noble for a local government unit to spearhead such a big project, no, of digitizing the ordinances for Batangas. Anyway, it is really commendable, Mr. Lunar. So let's now proceed to the next part of our session. From France, we went local, and now we'll go back to France again. Australia, actually, sorry. That's Australia. We will now be discussing about the integrating EBSCO Discovery Service, Publication Finder, and Open Athens with Koha. Our speaker is the Discovery Service Engineer of EBSCO Discovery Service in Australia. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alvet Miranda.
Testing, check one. Yeah, I'll try that. Yep, that's fine. Hopefully it doesn't fall. Testing, check one, two. Hi everyone, my name's Alvit Miranda. I am the Library Services Engineer Manager for EBSCO. I look after Southwest Asia, Oceania, and Africa. And I'm based in Australia, and specifically Melbourne. So it took me about, well, I think we were counting 15 hours to get here. This is my first time in the Philippines, so I apologize if I don't know the library scene in the region and I ask silly questions. But it's sort of nice to be here, and I want to thank the organizing committee for accepting my proposal, and also for the necklace. I had to wear it. I really like it, and I'm pretty sure my wife's going to love it as well when I give it to her when we get there. Now, for whatever reason, I move out of the range of the microphone and you guys can't hear me, please do let me know. I'll be conscious, but the best thing to do is, usually I ask people to raise their hands, but clench your fist. That just indicates that it's not a question, it just means you guys can't hear me. I tend to speak really soft generally. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly test to see if this thing's really working. Yeah, all right, it's working, so that's good. So my topic is Koha integration, so EDS, Publication Finder, and Open Athens. So you guys have been at KohaCon so far. I'm pretty sure everyone in the room knows what Koha is. I found out this morning that the Asian Institute of Management has implemented EDS, and so I'm pretty sure most of you will know what EDS is as well. There are two other things in my topic. So they basically related to Publication Finder and Open Athens. If you guys don't mind, quickly show of hands, how many of you know what Publication Finder is? Nobody, okay. All right. One, yes, of course. How many of you have heard of Open Athens? All right, a couple of people, so that's good. I think one of the advantages of this presentation is the fact that a lot of the content is brand new. No one's ever really heard of it or even seen this information. So thank you all for being here, and I'll try and make sure this presentation is going to be as interesting as possible. And so just to start off with, I want to go into the agenda, which is, so we're looking at 3 parts, which is search, depth and breadth of content with EDS, and then we're looking at Publication Finder and Open Athens. Well, holdings management and Publication Finder, and the last bit is of course Open Athens. And so that'll be a bulk of my presentation for the next 45 minutes. So I'll go into the EBSCO Discovery Service to start with. And so with the EBSCO Discovery Service, bit of history. So the Discovery Service sort of landscapes, I guess to some extent, started really early in 2009. EDS entered the market in 2010. My first interaction with Koha and EDS specifically was back in 2013. And so really the intent behind this at that time when we did the integration was to just bolt on discovery into Koha. And the intent was have the local data and the catalog and the repositories available with the EDS search and content, and essentially that made Koha your discovery front end. So that was pretty cool. And so like Koha, which originated in New Zealand, this plugin originated from that point as well. So even though I was in Australia, this was specifically a requirement for a New Zealand customer. So it wasn't by design, it was pure coincidence, and that was pretty cool, I guess. So what is Discovery specifically? Well, Discovery is a Google-like search tool. And so it's simple, fast, and efficient, and searches as many resources as possible. And so a wide range of options are available to refine those searches and enable easy access to full text or place requests. And so it really started as a search engine to start with, but as Discovery evolved, it's now sort of considered the next generation in discovery. And so you will see this image on sort of right side here. And essentially we're looking at discovery analytics tools, ebooks and books, journals, databases, ILS, IR. So there's a lot of other systems that are starting to connect to the Discovery service, and it becomes that single platform where all of these things can come together and sort of proceed from there. So in addition to all of that sort of integration, and because of that integration, we have almost 3.4 billion searchable records in EDS, content from 20,000 publishers, including over 3,000 open access publishers, over 165 apps, and 1,000 non-English profile representing 20 plus languages. And so you've got all of that breadth and all this integration that's going on. So one of the cool things we were thinking was, what if, I really like this animation, I'm not sure if you caught it, we could turn Koha into this sort of integration point. So I'm basically here to let you know that this is not a vision, this is not a dream, this is not a wish list. This is actually available. So people have been using the Discovery service with Koha for, as I mentioned, for about 3 years now. And this is what is the EDS UI, or the native interface. And this is how EDS looks. When you do searches, that's how the search results appear. These are the facets on the left. You've got filters, functionality, etc. And you've got links to full text happening within these records here, which is, and so that's searching, billions and billions of records. You then have this happening in Koha as well. And so the only place you can see the word discovery is up there. And that's customizable. So if you don't want the word discovery, you want to call it something else, you could. Technically, whoever is using Koha now is using a discovery service. So Koha has become a discovery service from this perspective. And so you will find the results, the links to full text, the limiters, facets, expanders, etc. They're all there. And if I scroll down, I will find again the EDS user interface. And I have all of the facets, they're sitting off on this side here. And again, some of the more search results, and then you can keep changing the pages. And again, if I keep scrolling down, the same thing happening within Koha as well. You'll notice that the facets are actually expanded here, so you can actually look at the details and limit your search results specifically to these areas if you want to. So these are things that have been operating for a really long time now. And so at a high level, the sort of crux of discovery is we want to make sure that the most relevant and the most current content appears right at the top. As we said, it's a Google-like search tool. And so one of the ways EDS, or EBSCO Discovery Service, is able to do this is essentially by match on subject headings, match on article titles, match on author keywords, match on keywords within abstracts, and match on keywords within full text. So all of these things essentially get a different score. And so if it's a match on subject, it's a higher score. If it's a match on title, slightly less, and so on. And eventually these things add up to create a rank or a score. The record with the highest score is what gets pushed up. And so EBSCO's sort of proud in making the algorithm open. We declare that this is how EDS does its searching. And so one of the advantages for you is that you know exactly what you're going to get because you know how EDS does the searching. And so one of the obvious benefits is that because of the relationships we have around the world with the publishers and the partners, etc., it's because of the strong relationships we've got and the working arrangements that we've managed to have with them. So what matters most in discovery? Essentially quality, depth, and breadth of data being searched, sophistication of the engine doing the searching, options for authentication and linking to full text, intuitiveness and features of the interface, levels of integration and customization, and qualification of the commitment by service staff such as myself. Now, I've managed to summarize almost 3 years of history with the Koha plugin in that one slide. If I sit and go through all of the features and functionalities, I reckon we'll probably be here the whole day and even till tomorrow. So I'm not going to do that. This is basically the wiki where the code is. So it's publicly available. It is open source. You're open to go and take a look at it. This is, as I've said, my third KohaCon. So there are similar presentations that I did at KohaCon 14 and 16 as well, and the presentations are there on the GitHub site, and I encourage you to go and take a look if you're really interested in knowing what else EDS can do and what are some of the features and functionalities. But just for this specific presentation, what I want to do is touch on the recent sort of developments that have happened since KohaCon 16. And so at the end of my KohaCon 16 presentation, I had an interesting question that started immediately, and the person was really, really eager to ask that question. I'm not sure for how long he's been holding that in, but let me see if I can get this coordinated correctly, because I know the...
And I have the first one. You said nothing. You said nothing about translatability of the plugin. Maybe you could say a few words.
So, like the original Koha, translatability was not in scope because it was specifically designed around New Zealand customers. In saying that, that is something that's on the roadmap now, and so what we will be doing is go.
Well, I hope you get the point. I mean, I was hoping to have the video play, but that didn't work out. Essentially, the question is, what about translatability? And obviously, because of the roots from New Zealand itself, it just wasn't a factor. I have to say that it is definitely a factor now, and so we have translatability now in Discovery. It's an early version, and so essentially what it does, so you can see this sort of language changes here. There's been work that's been done into it. There's two aspects to the Discovery when it comes to translatability. One is the code and the plugin itself. The other is the Discovery service itself and the content that comes through it. So on GitHub, we have a situation where... All right, I'm back. We have a situation where we've got the translatable files. So far, we've managed to do it into five languages: English, Arabic, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. So there is more on the way. It's just that the base platform is sort of set up and ready to go and available as well. And so one of the ways this works is essentially around the fact that if you enable the change in, say, change the language for the user, and the language changes here, essentially what you can do is the plugin has the intelligence to identify which language the user's listening or looking at, and it'll pull in the right language file in the back end. Now, installing languages in Koha is, at least in my view, requires some sort of system administrative assistance or help, and so we've continued with that trend, saying, look, you need to have some level of system administrative capability to really just install one of these plugins. When we do these changes, or when we install these language files, by default, EDS plugin will install only the default, and so that's the default there. It will not install the other files. The reason we've done this is because there's a good chance you may not like the way we've translated the English language. And so it gives you the ability to take these files, make the changes that you want. It's not a lot because, again, it's a really small plugin, but it does a lot of things. And so there's not a lot of, let's say, written text or English in there. And so you can actually make those changes yourself. So in the future, if you ever end up in a position where you have to upgrade the plugin, your file, which is there, remains. So it will not be overridden. By default, default.inc points to EN or English. Now, if you want to go and change the text for that as well, you can do that. The way the files are set up is you've got AR Arabic, so that matches AR Arabic there, ES-ES,
and es-es. You get the point. So as long as you've matched the file name to the language pack that you're installing, there's a good chance that that language file pretty much kicks in and does essentially what you have to do. And so there's a bit of improvement that's gone along from that perspective. Like I said, this is an example of the file. You could download this yourself if you wanted to and make these changes. Just don't change this bit. You can change the ones on the right side. I would also encourage that if you do made your own, let's say, translatable file, and if you guys don't mind, please share it with us. We'd like to make it available to as many people as possible. One of the ways to do that is probably create a fork on GitHub and then just send a pull request. And so we'll review the file and add that as part of the GitHub so people can just download and use that if they want to. A couple of other enhancements that have happened is before the current version, what you would have had to do is there's the section that requires you to patch files. Now, initially it was fine. When the plugin got developed, it was okay because we had only one or few customers to deal with. We were able to manage this. But this plugin is now 3 years old, or almost about to be 3 years old. And as people around the world start using it, this becomes a bit of a problem because as you upgrade Koha, it overrides the patches, and the patches mean EDS gets disabled. So that's been a bit of a problem and a pain point. And so one of the things we really wanted to do, at least with this sort of iteration, is to make sure that there are no more patch files. So I think we've managed to do that. So basically what it means is you can download the plugin, upload the plugin into Koha, and then just enable the plugin in the plugin system, and that's it. You don't have to go into the back end and start patching files. And again, we've improved the overall sort of way this has been set up, so there's some improvements in the back end as well. This used to look a little messy, so we improved that. The other bits we've included is this thing on default search engine, so EDS Koha and default without EDS. The way this used to work previously was that EDS would still be running, but it would be switched on softly, which means it will still be in the background. But because of the way we've done it with no more patches, you can actually turn off the plugin completely and prevent it from interacting with any of the Koha systems if you want, Koha functionality if you want to. So that flexibility is really there. You don't have to uninstall the plugin. And I think this was one of the pain points that people were facing as well when it comes to updating the plugin from EBSCO admin. So there's a lot of settings that you would have to enable beforehand within EBSCO admin before those settings then come into and are cached in the plugin itself. So we've done a bit of research. We've made sure that the base URLs are correct. We've put some information in here. And if you do make updates, you will at least know what goes wrong because the instructions are here. And so because all the patches were gone, there wasn't much left for the setup tool to do. So it always included the version release information. So if you are on an older version of the plugin, it will tell you what the latest version of the plugin is and also what version of the plugin you are on. You have the ability to roll back and bring things back on forth again if you want to. What we've also done is we were playing around with customizability of the plugin through the plugin around the time of KohaCon 16 last year. And so we decided to embed the plugin, or rather the app manager functionality in here itself, which basically means you can turn on apps through the plugin. The reason for this is because there is over 150 plus apps in the EBSCO App Store. That's just functionality sitting there available for you to use if you use the native EDS interface. And so we were trying to make sure that if you are a Koha user, how can you benefit from these apps as well? And so there's always a bit of work because the two systems and platforms are different. There is some effort required to make sure that the plugin does work on Koha. And so that's what we did. We were sort of playing around with this item match functionality around last year. I won't go into a lot of detail around what it does, but at a high level, it allows you to identify what search terms people are entering into the search system. And then if you find that the wrong search results are coming through, for example, library hours,
People are typing libraries in their discovery service or in your catalog, for example. You don't have a catalog record for library hours, but you can implement this placard that says, I think I know what you're looking for, and so I'm going to direct you in the right direction. So we did some research around that. The other thing that we did was we spent quite a lot of time on analytics. So we tried to integrate the EDS native interface with Google Analytics, and we found that it was really successful across a large group of users, and we wanted to bring that across to Koha as well. Essentially what you get is, what are the search terms people entered, what are some of the facets they turned on, what are some of the limiters they turned on, some popular tools within the details record, what happens, what are some of the search terms that don't lead to any results. So these are things that we've managed to bring on into the Koha plugin as well. So this is also available as part of that sort of process. So we need a good place to store all these apps because we're creating them, and we need to sort of make it as available as possible. And so one of the logical things we thought we would do is create an apps folder. So in GitHub itself, there's about 6 apps now. There's one that's being beta tested, so I wouldn't bother with this. But whenever we go through the process of making an app compatible with Koha, what we will do is we will load it into the apps folder here. So here's just a couple of examples just to show you some of the ones that are working right now. Sorry, before that, we'll put in instructions. So when you go into the app, there's a README file. You will get instructions around how to actually go ahead and install the app. Most of the time is just copy the code from this JS file, put it into the apps manager, and change any specific IDs to customize it to whatever you need to do. That's pretty straightforward. So one of the apps that we have, and we've managed to actually plug that into the discovery interface and even Koha in general, is something called autocomplete. So what this does is as people type search terms in, it brings search results from the discovery interface and displays that here. So you can click on those and have those results appear. So it's not essentially an autocomplete dictionary, but it's essentially just doing a sort of append search in discovery and bringing search results wherever it matches. So the probability of someone looking for something is better, at least with this functionality. The other thing we did was this aspect on collapsible facets by default. Now, this was a debate we were having in terms of should we do this by default in the plugin or should we not do it? Because some people liked it by closed, some people wanted it open by default. So the logical thing for us to do was turn it into an app. So if you install the app, it gives you the ability to collapse these by default like it is in EDS, unlike the way it's right now in Koha. And so as a result, what users can do is click on this and it'll expand or minimize. And again, the code's available, so you could go in and modify it exactly the way you want it. And so Gaten was talking about the possibility of using customization of Koha without having to change the core. And we've sort of followed the same principle, which is, can we customize the discovery interface, use all the apps that are there, and have that available for users without having to go and change the core of the plugin. And I think we're sort of starting to achieve that to some extent. So, I mean, the intent, at least, I guess it's sort of a message. I'm not sure how successful it's going to be, but if you do end up building apps for the plugin, and if firstly you end up using it, then we would definitely encourage you to share. The way, again, we would do this is create a fork for GitHub, and then put in a pull request. Whatever apps you end up doing would be open source and available for everyone else as well. So it's a little sort of thing happening on the side for discovery. So that's the first part of my presentation. All right, so I'm getting into the second one. Hopefully you all are with me and you found the information that I've shared so far interesting. Now, this is about specifically Full Text Finder. And so Full Text Finder includes a couple of tools. They include the knowledge base, holdings management, publication search service, and the link resolver. And I'm going to spend some time just going through these. But at a high level, you've got the publication finder, you've got publication discipline browse, which gives you some discipline functionality to limit your search results to. Title matching feature, so if you type in an exact title, it'll give you the exact search result. Link resolver, hopefully most of you are familiar with it, but it depends on what's available within your holdings and offers links for users to go and access it. And holdings management, which is the interface in the back end for an administrator, where you can go in and maintain a lot of this functionality from a publications, title matching, link resolver perspective. And so with the exact match feature that I talked about, this was sort of presented at KohaCon last year, so it's available, and I just wanted to sort of point out that it is there. There is a lot more detail that I go into. There is a video recording somewhere, so if you just Google EDS Koha, you will sort of get to it. And this allows you to search within a publication, so that this is actually results in discovery. And if there's links that the user wants to go to straight off to the publisher site, you can do that as well through this. The other aspect is the link resolver. Now, this has been used by a lot of libraries already. There isn't a specific integration of code that's required. This sort of link appears as you configure your discovery service. So if this record is considered as part of your collection, there is a link that appears that says full text finder. So when a user clicks on this, they take into the full text finder interface. Depending on the number of links that you've turned on, the user can click on one of these and then go straight to the full text. So they have the choice of where do they get this resource from, and then there's the coverage information on the side as well. With the browse functionality, now this is the native EDS interface, not in Koha. And so there is the browse by discipline function for Publication Finder, where users can pick one of these disciplines. There is the number of results that are associated based on your collection. And so when you click on these, it will return those specific results. So in this case, if I click on information technology, I'm presented with results that are associated with the discipline information technology. The disciplines function is not in the Koha plugin yet. It is on the roadmap, and so eventually we'll plug that in, but I just want to let you know what the discipline functionality really looks like. And so when you get search results for Publication Finder, so this is different to EDS. EDS is article level searching, whereas this one is journal book level searching. So when you do searches, it's only searching for the titles of your journals in this case. So let's look at Acta Informatica, for example. This is all configurable through the holdings management functionality. So this is available through EBSCO admin. So you would get a username password to do this. Once you've logged in, you get to the holdings management feature, which gives you the titles, the packages, and the vendors that are associated with your collection. And so what you can do here is it gives you autocomplete functionality, which is there. So if I was looking at, so this is an example of what I showed you before, Acta Informatica. And here you have the same search term being typed in partially. And what this does is gives you information in an autocomplete perspective. You can click on one of these, and it takes you to that specific record directly, which is there, and that's the front end. So just to make things relatable, I've shown the front end functionality and how this looks in the back end. So when you first look at this, you have all these providers that are available through the EBSCO knowledge base. And so this is what makes the holdings management functionality useful, because EBSCO takes care of a lot of these things in the background. So what you have to do is select the resource from where it's available. And so if I selected to just the selected items right now, I'm then presented only with the selected view. So you can see there's 2 Springer links in EBSCO admin, and in the front end, there are 2 Springer links. Hopefully this makes sense. It's really basic, but if anyone's interested in more information, do let me know. I'd be happy to answer more questions. The other advantage with ordering stuff through EBSCO is that these things will be turned on for you automatically. So recap so far, we've talked about holdings management, link resolver, title matching, and publication discipline browse, which is not in the Koha plugin yet, but everything else is. Now I'm going to go into publication finder, right? And this is an integration that we've managed to do in the back end, or rather in the front end of Koha. So previously, there was a little field code called JN journal title. Now, this was a requirement that came up by the New Zealand customer that we built this for. They said they'd like to search for the journal titles. We didn't have the publication finder APIs available at the time, and so we added this functionality into the plugin, and what this did was it did a JN search, and so it would try and look for the field code JN. Which wasn't that useful, but now that we've got the publication finder API functionality, we've repurposed that sort of limiter, and we're trying to do this softly, just to not confuse users. If people are really looking for journal titles and their publications, then we can educate users to do this. And so what it does now is, if you remember the way publication finder returns search results, this is the Koha interface. You get the links here, you get the search within publication box, and you have all the facets on the left side as well. Now, if you wanted a more prominent way for users to search for journals, you may remember the apps functionality I showed you a while back. There's a good chance we could use that. So rather than having to play around with the core plugin functionality, we could use apps to make this journal link somewhere more prominent. The other thing that we added, so this was initially an app, and so I think the sort of process here was, look, it helps distinguish between discovery interface and the publication finder interface. So we added a browse by functionality here. So if you click on L, for example, it returns all the results by L. So it's just another way to distinguish the interface that you're in between publication finder and discovery. And so obviously this function is there. When you search here, it takes you back to the article level searching. The other thing we wanted to do is offer that continuity in the detailed record. So if I went into a journal and I still have the search, I still have all the links that are here, and the user can pretty much have a look at all this stuff. If I did a search for animal, for example, in here, what would happen is I would get search results. I would have an active facet that says limited to that journal, and these are all the results that are from that journal. So we're looking at source, laboratory animals, so that's all being plugged in and wired in as well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of the full text finder. 2 down, 1 to go. So this is just the third section of my presentation. Hopefully I'm going well for time. The third section is really just access management with Open Athens specifically. And so since not a lot of you have heard about Open Athens, I'm going to go into a bit of detail on this. Fundamentally, libraries desire to provide its users access to licensed information resources, but face several challenges due to complex security systems. So EBSCOhost itself and the EBSCO system itself supports 9, 10 different authentication mechanisms. You can just imagine how many there are. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do is use an industry standard in the form of Open Athens. Now this looks like a vision statement or mission statement, so I'm going to try and read it exactly so I don't make a mistake. Open Athens, which is a product from EduServe, is helping over 2,000 organizations in 46 countries enable access to hundreds of thousands of journals, databases, and ebooks for over 4 million end users. So it's a product that's stable, it's been around for a while, and it's definitely being used as well. And so at a high level, what is Open Athens? So it's a username, password-based system for access to library resources, subscribers identification independent of IP, user categorization and statistics, I'll explain what that means, and provides anonymized user ID to publishers for personalization. And what is Open Athens for? All access to library resources on network, remote or mobile, and organizations where IP authentication doesn't work. So if you don't have a static IP, this may be a good solution for you. And obviously to integrate with an organization's own single sign-on systems. You could use OpenAthens to do that as well. Now, this is a bit of a diagram. I'm going to try and simplify this as much as possible. Essentially, what's happening with OpenAthens is it's trying to remove barriers to knowledge. As people are trying to access the information that's on the other side, what they have to do is remember one username and password and then go and access the resource. Once they've logged into a browser session, they don't have to keep coming back and typing the username password again. So that's really the plan with OpenAthens and how this sort of integration works in general. What we did this past couple of months, probably last month itself, is when we launched the beta. It's been tested. It's live with one of our mutual customers now. But there is another GitHub project that's now available. And so if you do a Google search for Koha OpenAthens, you will be led to this GitHub page. Again, it's another plugin that you can use to integrate OpenAthens to Koha. So let me explain what this means. There are two ways of integrating or rather offering single sign-on. Either you connect to your local directory, LDAP, or you store all the usernames in OpenAthens. What this process is doing, or what this plugin is doing specifically, is it's using the Koha patron directory, and based on the login to Koha, it's then creating a session in OpenAthens, which means you don't have to create multiple username passwords. Users don't have to create multiple username passwords, and it's just the one that people want to use. And so this plugin's sort of up and running there. Because it's about authentication, the best type of authentication is the one that works in the background seamlessly and the users are unaware. So I don't have any fancy slides to demonstrate this, except for the fact that I'm on this Koha page right now, and I type in my login username and password, and what happens is that I'm taken to the login page, but there's a little message that appears on the top that says, authenticating into OpenAthens, please wait. The moment the session is successful, what happens is that this message goes away and the user can just do whatever they want. And so logical thing to do is to go into discovery and start searching. So as you start searching, you start getting search results. And one of the things that happens is you get these links that go to a publisher platform. What we do is we call this term Athenizing a link. Once the link is Athenized, what it means is that the user will first go to OpenAthens. If a session is created, then they log in through that process without having to type in their username and password, and they just go ahead and access the resource. It's really as simple as that. Now, this is a full-on slide, but I'm not going to go into these little details. I'm just going to highlight what's there with OpenAthens and what's there with IP versus proxy-based authentication. And I'm going to just highlight what's available and what's not. These slides are available for you to take a look at, so later on down the line, if you're really interested, you can take a look at these. But what I do want to explain is that OpenAthens uses a global standard in authentication, which means when a user logs in to OpenAthens, the user details are sort of pushed off to the publisher. So the publisher knows how many people are actually accessing the resource versus IP, which is an anonymous user pool, and you have no idea how many people have actually gone in because it's just the one link. And so this is really useful when it comes to granular statistics and all that information, which is one of the benefits really of OpenAthens. And so speaking about benefits, we're looking at can be implemented by librarians. So it's a simple interface that users can use. User account management tools for librarians can restrict access to categories of individuals, and I'll explain with that in the slide, and granular statistics as well. So when you're an administrator, the reason I'm showing you the administration screen is because there's nothing really to show from a user end perspective. It's all behind the scenes, all automatic, and that's the way we want it to be. But as an administrator, what you can do is go to openathens.net, click on OpenAthens account administration. You will be given a username and password. And so what happens here is you log in with those credentials, and you're then taken to let's say, a dashboard. And so the dashboard here gives you a quick overview of the number of users, what are some of the more popular resources, and also gives you easy links to some of the other resources. So if I click on summary here, it then gives me granular statistics on the resources that are being used up here as well. So here in this case, for example, there's 137,000, but there's 116.8. And this is what I mean by the granular statistics rather than just a high-level average. In addition, you get that whole aspect of per month access as well at the individual resource level. So really useful when it comes to justifying the sort of return on investment for some of the resources that people subscribe to. The other advantage of Open Athens is because it is through SAML authentication and you know who the user is that has authenticated. What an administrator can do is they can create groups, right? So in those groups, they can assign users. So there's 375 there, 2 there, 5 there. And what are these 2 supposed to access? And what are these 5 supposed to access? And what are these 375 supposed to access? Now, I'm guessing you have some people that use your library that should not be allowed access to specific resources. This is where that sort of functionality, or let's say availability to do that, becomes really useful. And you can do all of this through just the administrative interface in the back end here. In addition, there's tons of integration options. So you can integrate with your LDAP, your Active Directory, ADFS, etc. And one of the other advantages of implementing Open Athens is that your library resources now become part of your security system, which means the IT team that looks after your security could potentially be managing all this stuff for you instead of you having to take on that burden. And so this is just what appears when it comes to setting up what I would call a connection. So you've got LDAP, SAML, SERC, Dynix, ADFS. What's really important here for Koha is the API. And so the connector that we built is the API connector, and that's what we use in Koha for the plugin. So like I said, it's really, it is essentially just a plugin again. You could go to GitHub, download the plugin, upload it, turn it on, and that's it really. You don't have to do anything else. What you do have to do then is go into the back end and complete this form. So you've got the connection URL, OA API key, connection ID, URLs, etc. And this is all available in the Open Athens backend, which is through the entity and the scope. So you pick the Koha API connection. You could use your Open Athens to do multiple connections if you wanted to, but in this case, it's just the Koha API. Copy this information from there. The other thing this sort of authentication allows you to do is identify what kind of data for the patron goes to Open Athens. So this is your patron information in Koha. And so when you create sort of a connection with authentication systems, either there's legal requirements for certain information to be available, or you'd like to use this information, for example, branch code, to determine which users get access to which resource. And so in the back end, there is, of the plugin, there is the list of all the borrower fields. You would not turn all of these on. You have the ability to pick the ones that you want and then save. Like the EDS plugin, you can also enable or disable the system yes, no here, and then click on Save Configuration. And so that sort of allows you to turn on or turn off Open Athens authentication just as easily. Now, once you've created the integration and the connections, what you have to do, especially with the data that's being pushed out from Koha into Open Athens, is the mapping. Because Open Athens has its own set of fields which you can specify and set yourself. Koha has its own set of fields. They need to map or talk to each other. And the way to do that is through the attributes tab, where you specify this field needs to map in Open Athens to that field in Koha. And it's really a one-time thing. Once you've set it up, the chances are this really does not need to change unless something changes drastically. So this, again, I would probably say is quite a simple functionality. So I'm not going to explain this workflow because it looks a bit complicated. You just have to look at this. Koha 2 resource. If I have authenticated into Koha, because I have Open Athens installed, I can access the resource. It's as simple as that. And again, resource to Koha to resource. Again, I won't go into the explanation of it. I just want to point out that this is a smiley face. We want smiley faces when it comes to authentication. And so again, if a user goes to the resource directly but has not authenticated into Koha, the resource will point the user to Koha. They will log into Koha, and then the plugin will know where they came from and redirect them back to that resource. So again, we've simplified a lot of this workflow and built that into the plugin. So I didn't have this slide till today, and this was really influenced by the future of Koha discussion. I think a lot of what Paul shared. So this again is my personal opinion than anything else. I'd probably be bold enough to say that the future of Koha is now rather than a couple of years away with EDS, Full Text Finder, Open Athens, and really the conclusion sort of is we're better together. So that's my time, folks. Before I open for questions, I just want to thank you all for being really patient and listening to me. I got the 5-minute sort of warning, but I'm all done. And I just wanted to also say that we've got people here from EBSCO. I welcome you to sort of approach our stand as well if you have any questions. Also, if you want to talk to us about a little more detail, we're all available here. Plus, we've got contact details of our team here as well. Thanks so much for your time, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. So the floor is now open for question and answer. For your questions or any reactions, affirmation? Yes, sir?
He was the first one to ask a question the last time also.
So what about translatability? No, I'm kidding. My question is related to, in France, we use a tool that is Easy Proxy to help users to access resources that the university has subscribed. Sure. Can we say that Open Athens can be a kind of replacement for Easy Proxy? Even if I understand it's not the same thing, but can we get rid of Easy Proxy if we use Open Athens?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And your limited edition notebook from Manila Bulletin. Okay, so...
There's one just at the end there.
Sir?
Hi, my name is Noel and I'm from IRI, International Rice Research Institute. And we are just curious, how much do you charge for the EDS, and if ever do you give discounts to non-profit organizations? Thank you.
Sure. The answer is yes to the second one. Discounts are offered to non-profits, but you'll have to speak to the sales team about the first question. And the reason I say this is because there's a pricing models vary from continent to continent, right? It's that extensive. So definitely get in touch with your sales rep to identify a specific pricing. And we're pretty flexible when it comes to all those things. And we're happy to help as well.
Okay. Are there any questions, affirmation, or reaction?
I do also want, if there's no questions, I mean, feel free to raise your hand and say if you found this presentation interesting, terrible, it puts you to sleep, or any other sort of feedback that way. If it's compliments, I'd appreciate it, but you don't have to. That's fine.
No, sir. This is very informative. This is very timely for the KohaCon conference. Okay. So, allow me to award the certificate of appreciation. Anyway, if you have any other questions that may arise later on, you may email them at aslplibrarians@gmail.com, and we will be we'll do our best to answer those questions at once. May I call the conference chairperson and the vice president of ASLP, and also representing in behalf of ASLP, Ms. Maisel Wayo Marifosque, to join us on stage. And then our representative from the Koha ILS Philippines Volunteers, Mr. Manuel Tamayaw. The citation reads, the Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines, ASLP Incorporated, in cooperation with Koha Integrated Library System, ILS volunteers, presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Alvet Miranda, EBSCO Discovery Service, Australia, in grateful recognition for sharing his time and knowledge as a resource speaker for the 2017 Koha International Conference, held on June 19 to 23, 2017 at Ayala Museum, Makati City, Metro Manila, Philippines. Given this 20th day of June 2017, signed Ms. Maisel Y. Marifosque, Conference Chair, Vice President, and Randolph D. Mariano, President. And we have a little token of appreciation, sir. It's called kalesa, the traditional transportation in the Philippines. Again, Mr. Alvet Miranda, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Since the topic is all about EBSCO, we'll now be presenting a product from EBSCO. May I invite on stage from Gobi, Library Solutions from EBSCO, the Director of Gobi Sales Training and Effectiveness, Ms. Ruja Obradovich.
How's that? Good. Good. Thank you. Thank you. We're very honoured to be sponsoring this conference again. My colleague represented us, a couple of other colleagues represented us in Greece last year, I understand. So if anybody else was there, you probably have heard some of this already. Now, we're very excited to be part of the EBSCO group, and we're Gobi Library Solutions, and we are a book supplier, but we're more than just a book supplier, and that hence why we are called Gobi Library Solutions. We are a way of buying, discovering, buying books and making them accessible for your end users. And this is why we are part of this technology conversation. Now, just down, sorry. Oh, yes, they did tell me that, and I went the wrong way. Left, right. I'm just going to cover off a very brief. I know you're all probably ready to go and have afternoon tea. So I'm just going to very briefly do an introduction to Gobi and how we've integrated with Koha and some of the future plans that are currently in place with Koha. So just a little bit about Gobi. We have been around for a long time. So we started off just as a book supplier, and as years went on and technology came along and library management systems got developed and acquisition collection development went from your book supplier visiting you to online catalogues for discovering and purchasing those books. Our journey also took place through that life cycle. So our journey really started in 1971, and some of our key components of where our journey took interesting technology innovations was in the process of in the year of, let me just see my years, small print. Our first approval plans took place in 74. We were the first academic bookseller online in 1996, and we're the first shelf-ready customers we had on board in 1997. We sold our first e-books via Gobi Library Solutions in 2006, selling what is now EBSCO Host, and some of you might remember it as Net Library many years ago. In 2007, we integrated print and approval plans, and really this is where some of our journey took place. So in 2014, our next really significant milestone in terms of what happens in collecting and automation of collection development was that we developed an API as the new technology was taking place. And our first API was released in 2014 with Alma. Our second API interface was released in 2016 with Sierra. And finally, in 2017, we have the Koha Gobi API interface. So that's our journey, 26 years. I am older than the company, which makes me feel a little bit distressed. We are a reasonably sized company and we have lots and lots of customers internationally and a number of customers here in the Philippines as our partners. As Gobi Library Solutions, we have a database for discovering books. We have a way of alerting our customers to new titles of books, and we release about over 1.3 million new title alerts we released. We are an academic supplier, so we profile academic books predominantly, though we do have large national libraries as also our customers for special collections that they have. And we also have lots of special libraries, and theologicals and medicals are our key partners because this is very, very specific kind of content that we also categorise and make available to discover in Gobi. We have many customers who have helped us develop our Gobi solution and integration. And those customers include also Asian Institute of Management and De La Salle in the Philippines. But our major customers where we developed as a company are in the US, and we are certainly expanding in Europe and through Asia. What makes Gobi so unique as a Gobi Library Solutions? Gobi is our interface for discovering the bibliographic content for your collection development. So it starts through Gobi, and then the processes of integration happen through the integration of workflows for collection development. And therefore we have been partnering with many ebook suppliers and library management systems to offer that automation of collection development. As part of that, you can buy not just your print books, but many ebook platforms are acquired through the one central one-stop shop. And some of our major just to list a few Koha libraries internationally. We have quite a large user base currently using our workflow. So, Gobi and Koha integration. What does that look like? So the Gobi and Koha integration currently looks like this. A library logs into Gobi and looks at discovers the title. They place an order on that title. We create a file called, which is generated, which is the electronic order record, the EOCR file. We place that file of records on the FTP for the library to log into the FTP, collect that file, and load it into the Koha acquisition system. And then there is a record of the purchase as well as a brief bibliographic record. So this achieves a number of things, which is streamlining that collection development workflow and allowing less risk of error and integration. So what does it look like just in a few images? Here's the Gobi bibliographic record that a library discovers. They open up a little order screen once they've selected the record that they've discovered, and they enter a number of the order information in the order fields, as displayed there. The order is recorded in Gobi. The mark record, the EOCR, is generated, and here you'll see the general bibliographic data that gets generated, as well as those significant 9XX fields to load into Koha to create that order. In Koha, what does that look like? You're probably all much more familiar with this than I am, and you'll see that the bibliographic record is in the system and available in available course display in OPAC, and the setup is in your Koha system to set up the mapping data of where that order information that's important to you is displayed. So this process is a very traditional process in terms of one of the early electronic workflows, ordering workflows. But in 2014 or 2013, 2014, when the APIs started becoming a key significant component in collection development and in the library management systems, we moved to what is called Gobi API integration with the library management systems, including Koha. So this streamlines the collection development for the library greatly. There isn't the component of ordering in Gobi, generating a file, picking the file up, and loading the file. What happens is it talks in real time. You place the order in Gobi, that's me using the API, having set up all those fields, that is transmitted into your acquisitions module, and the purchase order number is automatically sent back to Gobi so that you have record of that, and that will appear on your electronic invoice that is also available through the integration of Gobi and Koha. So it streamlines a lot of work, a lot of typing, file loading, and it happens within seconds. It's like magic. You've placed the order in Gobi and it appears in your system and in your OPAC and in your acquisition. So it's a little bit like, a little bit like what I call magic, not having to do all that work. So that's the kind of image that gives you an idea of what it looks like. Now that is, this development was, much of this Gobi API development was sponsored and funded by EBSCO. So and it really cements our commitment to not just the major library management systems that are proprietary, but to certainly systems that are supported globally across the world. And really, that's it for me. I hope that made some sense, or I made some sense. And if you have any questions, you certainly can find us over in that corner over there, and we have some brochures that you can find out more about the company and how the collection development is supported electronically through us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vruzha Obradovich, the Director of Gobi Sales Training and Effectiveness. So if you have questions and other inquiries, you may approach their booth at the back. They are easy to find. They have tarpaulins of EBSCO hosts at the back. So After listening with the different speakers this afternoon, this second shift of the session for this day, we will now have our short break, and we will resume at 3:30 p.m. Okay? Yes, 3:30 p.m. Sorry.